Over the last 2 years, and now more than ever, it really feels like NXT is that forgotten brand of WWE. And it didn't used to be that way because NXT was the most enjoyable 1-hour television show for quite a bit, but things changed over the last 2 years. And now with NXT getting a brand new revamp, I figure it was the right time to go back and see the mistakes that WWE made and what exactly ruined NXT. All of it leading to the brand new era of NXT that we are about to get. Hit those notifications and let's get into it. One of the things that made NXT so good was how well they built up some of their top talents. One of the ways that WWE ruined all of that was calling these superstars up and not booking them correctly. To this day, there's many times where WWE calls up a top superstar on NXT and they don't have nothing planned for them except for that first feud, which a lot of times came against Baron Corbin, The Miz, or even Dolph Ziggler. That was usually an NXT call-out feud that was gonna be guaranteed on the main roster and was gonna be the first one. But then after that, it felt like WWE just didn't have any plans. WWE ruined almost every single NXT call-up over the last 3 years. They called up guys like Shinsuke Nakamura, Sami Zayn, Samoa Joe, gave them a decent feud to start off, but then after that, it went downhill. The losses started to pile in, the storylines wasn't as interesting as what they were doing on NXT, so week by week they were just losing the momentum that they have been building on NXT. If Shinsuke was dominating NXT for 2 years straight, carrying the title, carrying the main event scene, that WWE call-out felt more like a demotion because he wasn't gonna be on top on Raw or SmackDown. Instead, WWE acted like none of that happened, and it was like starting all over again for these superstars. Which brings me to the next point of how WWE ruined NXT. It just adds to what we just discussed. There was no continuity. You know what really did it for me and basically told us that WWE just did not care about what was happening on NXT? It was when they decided to call up Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa and put them in a tag team on Raw and SmackDown, while on Wednesday nights on NXT they were literally destroying each other because they were in one of their most massive feuds ever. Vince McMahon is like, I don't care, put these guys in a tag team even though it doesn't make sense because on the third brand that is NXT, these guys are literally in one of the most vicious feud that NXT has ever given us. That was about 2 years ago, and that is really when things just started to go down for NXT. And to this day, that type of lack of continuity in character continues. WWE calls up superstars, they change their name, change their entrance, which a lot of time these entrances for these superstars are really what puts them over on NXT, but then they don't have it on the main roster, so of course the fans are gonna sour it and that momentum is gonna be lost right away. Another example of continuity, just look at what's happening on television right now with Karen Cross. How is it that while this guy is holding the NXT championship, he is undefeated, the most dominant superstar in NXT for over the last year, but he is losing 1-minute matches on Monday Night Raw and honestly looking like a complete rookie? They literally do not acknowledge how dominant he has been. It's like NXT doesn't even belong to WWE. And that brings us to the next point. Remember about 2 years ago when NXT actually dominated Survivor Series, with the final results being NXT winning the whole event with 4 points while Monday Night Raw had 1 and SmackDown ended up having 2. That was great. That established NXT as a real third brand for WWE, not just a developmental brand or the D Show. It was already officially a third brand of WWE, a quote-unquote main brand for WWE. They were even hyping it up like that, but they ruined it because they didn't continue this type of momentum. The following year, NXT disappeared from Survivor Series. Sure, they ended up adding an NXT Women's Championship match to WrestleMania, and there were a couple of Royal Rumble surprises surprises. But besides that, for the most part, it was like WWE was making it obvious that, okay, yes, NXT is not really the third main roster brand. It's just on the low end of things. Even when we get a call out, we kind of hear that already, with the commentary team putting down NXT, saying that Raw and SmackDown is not NXT. They're not going to be as dominant as they were on that brand, because this is quote unquote the big leagues. This is where the big boys play. Hell, we just had Roman Reigns saying the exact same thing that I just mentioned to Finn Balor on a promo a couple of weeks ago. Literally putting down, just diminishing everything that Finn Balor has done on NXT over the last year. Which, by the way, that last Finn Balor run on NXT was amazing. So it's a slap in the face how insignificant they make it to be on the main roster. The next big mistake that ruined NXT was obviously moving it to the USA Network, making it to hours, and ultimately competing with AEW. We will leave AEW out of this conversation as much as possible, because again, NXT being ruined is just WWE own doing. NXT being 2 hours is not even a big problem. The issue with NXT right now is just how plain it feels and how much filler it seems to have. Week by week, it just felt like it was becoming another Raw and another SmackDown. And obviously SmackDown is great right now, but looking back at it a year and a half ago and so on, NXT just started to feel like it was another overproduced 2-hour television show for the USA Network. At that point, NXT wasn't even the third brand. It was not the alternative anymore. It wasn't differentiating itself from Raw and SmackDown as much as it used to 2.5 years ago. And a lot of it really had to do with the call-ups and WWE not booking these superstars correctly, and us knowing that as soon as these top-level superstars go to Raw or SmackDown, chances are they're gonna lose so much momentum that we might not even care about. Just look at how many former NXT champions are currently in the main roster, literally not doing anything, and they got lost in the shuffle. There's just too many of them. And that brings me to the last point, and that is that it feels like Triple H just doesn't have any control about the talent and about what is going on NXT. Obviously, we know that he is in charge, but at the end of the day, we have been seeing so many changes to NXT over the last 2 years that we all know those changes are because of Vince McMahon. Nowadays, it's obvious that Triple H doesn't even have control of who's getting called up, who's getting released, and what's not gonna make sense the following week. Because if Vince McMahon makes a decision, like releasing somebody, next week NXT is just gonna have to go on and try to make sense of the whole situation. Because Triple H has no control of what's happening on top, so he just has to go with it. He definitely has no control of who gets called up. We heard the reports before that WWE continues to make late decisions like this. We just had Toni Storm getting called up. She made her debut on SmackDown, and we didn't see her over a month. That is a perfect example of everything I've been discussing today that continues to ruin NXT. The lack of booking, the lack of continuity, ruining call-ups, and Triple H literally not being able to do anything. Luckily, he got to bring Samoa Joe back after being released, but that in itself feels like it was a miracle for Triple H to pull off. Anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. How else do you think WWE ruined NXT over the last couple of years? I really hope that things turn around and it once again become that true alternative to Raw and SmackDown, but we're gonna have to wait and see. If you guys enjoy or found this informative, don't forget to turn on those notifications for more WWE, AEW, and all wrestling coverage. I'll catch you guys on the next one, so stay savage.